Well, welcome back to this edition of the Janice and Amy vlog, as I am putting it. I'm Amy Irvine once again, and joining us is Janice Vitale. She is a licensed therapist, and I always say it wrong, Janice. It's LCWSW. What does that exactly stand for?
I'm a licensed clinical social worker.
Clinical social worker.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the actual term. That's what the designation stands for. Okay.
But we do the same thing as licensed professional counselors.
Gotcha.
We're all doing basically the same thing. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. It's interesting because it's just like financial planners. We have different designations and different titles, and yeah, we're doing some of the same things. It's just different ways, I guess, that we go about getting those designations and licenses.
Exactly.
So today, one of the things that I really wanted to hone in on, we're recording this in May. The release is going to be out in June. And one of the things that we're still coping with, and we're hearing more and more in the news about, is anxiety in today's world, in today's environment. And specifically, people that have had anxiety are suffering more from it, and people that haven't had it are getting it a little bit. They don't really know that that's what it is necessarily, but then learning about it and getting a feel for what anxiety actually is. You and I were talking a little bit before I hit the record button, and I don't know that people really know what anxiety is. So maybe we should spend just a few minutes talking about what anxiety is, what are some of the symptoms of anxiety, and what should people be doing, and when is it time to get treatment?
So anxiety is the feeling where like your heart's racing, your hands might get sweaty, sometimes your face might be flushed, sometimes you might find yourself clenching your hands, you might have stress in your shoulders. All those things kind of together are symptoms of, it could be symptoms of like worry, but worry is kind of the escalation of that is anxiety, what we would call anxiety.
And sometimes does anxiety feel like there's this weight, and it's something inside, it's brewing. So you maybe don't have the sweaty hands, but you just feel, I call it jittery. Like I've had too much coffee or something. Like there's something that's sitting there, and I'm not able, for me, it's when I'm not able to control, to be honest. I say that I feel anxious sometimes when I just feel like I don't have any ability to stop the bus to get off.
Right.
So is that truly anxiety, or is that more a different characteristic of something else?
I don't know. I mean, that sounds like that could be anxiety, or like I have to get this done, and just I don't know where I'm going to find the time to do it. And if I don't get this done, then this bad thing's going to happen. It's just like kind of like out of control worry thoughts.
Okay.
And it might feel different. Like my anxiety might feel different than yours.
Or it might be my kids are going to be home until next fall. What am I going to do?
Right.
I mean, that's what a lot of people are going through right now, is that we don't know when things are going to get back to the normal that we were used to experiencing. I mean, there's been a couple of conferences that are scheduled for out in October, and they're already putting contingency plans. And in fact, the women's conference that I run every single year, we're talking, and this year's going to be in September, we are talking contingency plans, because we don't know if we're going to be able to get 100 people in a room together and be able to actually legally be able to do it, or safely be able to do it. So maybe that's where some of my anxiety is coming from too.
Yeah. I mean, like everything's up in the air. We really don't know. People are worried, like, will I have a job next month? Some people are worried about, where am I going to get food for my kids? There's some real worry and concern out there for people,
And what can escalate it? What are some of the things that can escalate anxiety?
So when you start thinking about things like, well, what if this and what if that? So, like some of that you need, like, well, what would I do if my husband lost his job? What are some
Mhm.
things, there's like,
There's
being real.
planning, but
Yes,
then, yeah.
yes. And where you get into trouble, where you end up in the weeds is, thinking things like, well, what if something happened to my mom? Oh my gosh, I don't have room in my house. What if I lose my job and my mom's sick
Hmm.
and I'm trying to take care of her? Those kind of thoughts, that's
Hmm.
where we kind of end up in the weeds, because it's not something that is happening now. You have no way of knowing that that's going to happen. So you're kind of uh, taking yourself down this path of thinking about something that's probably not going to happen.
Hmm.
And when you think those thoughts, what's happening inside your body is like, oh my God, my what if my mom gets sick?
Hmm.
Immediately, like if I think
Hmm.
about my own mom, it makes me feel anxious. It makes me
Hmm.
feel scared.
Hmm.
And what's happening in your body is there's adrenaline starts coursing through your body, and so that's going to start making your chest feel kind of uncomfortable.
Okay.
Get your heart's racing. Your body is preparing itself for something dangerous. Our bodies, our minds don't know the difference between an imagined future, like this imaginary danger, and something happening to us right now. So, like our caveman selves, when we saw a saber-toothed tiger, I don't even really know if there were human type animals and saber-tooths at the same time, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
Like where there was real danger, those things would happen. So had the ability to like run really fast and do
Mhm.
superhuman kinds of things. You think about you hear these stories of people like something they get trapped underneath a car and somebody is able to like superhuman like pick up the
Mhm.
car.
Mhm.
That's what's happening to us when we are imagining these horrible things happening, and so it feels horribly uncomfortable.
Mhm.
Feels
Mhm.
horribly uncomfortable. Yeah, and so that
So it's the flight or fight mode kind of
correct.
concept that we've heard so much about.
Yes.
And, right now, like in the news and social media, I mean, those are things that can enhance our worries, right? Because
Yes.
yeah.
Well, and I think that because there is so much uncertainty, even when we're not thinking about it, I think it's running in the background. Just like on a computer, there's always things that are running.
Mhm.
There's things happening on my computer running in the background, even though you and I are on Zoom. And
Mhm.
and even though you and I um, aren't specifically thinking about certain things, that's in the background kind of running. So that's happening. So we have this
Mhm.
we're collectively in crisis mode. We just
Okay.
are.
Okay.
And
So when we're constantly in crisis mode like that, does our body not shut down? I mean, does it not heal like it normally does? Would if I think about like when you go to sleep at night, the body, that's the time that the body heals itself, right?
right, right.
And if you have one of those nights where maybe you had a really stressful day or you're going through a stressful time, you wake up just as tired as you went to bed feeling
Hmm.
because you really didn't shut
Hmm.
down, right?
Right.
Is that the same kind of concept?
Yeah, I think you're onto something. I think we have to be really cautious because we can be in constant crisis mode, and that's going to really deplete us
Okay.
big
So,
time.
so when we do, when we're in that, like we are right now, and it doesn't even have to be a pandemic. It can be over finances. I mean, I've met with people, and right now, finances is a piece of this whole pandemic. Certainly, I mean, this
Hmm.
isn't a health related issue. This is also a financial related issue, but it could be during what I've come to say is normal. However, I don't know if there's ever normal again, but that anxiety can exist over a lot of different things. It could be your kids, it could be your finances, it could be your job, it could be your parents. There's a lot of different,
Well, and also how you view yourself.
it could be
People
right.
have anxiety about things like that as well. Yeah, I'm sorry
No, no, no. These are like, so this is a elevated time.
yes.
So we've talked a lot about it in the past, in some of the blogs that we've done together. And we've talked about meditation and deep breathing and, some of the ways to deal with it. But how do you deal with it when, like I said, the news and social media, we want to be aware. We don't want to be uneducated. We
Right.
want to know what's going on. So there's got to be a piece of that we're keeping ourselves up to
Mhm.
date on. But if it's a chicken or an egg thing, like I got to watch the news because I don't know what's going on, but I've got to not watch the news because it gives me anxiety, but I want to know what's going on, but it gives me anxiety. Like,
Mhm.
what do we do in those moments where we're trying to educate ourselves or be involved in whatever is causing the anxiety to not let it get um, so bad that our adrenaline is racing to the point of truly having an anxiety attack?
Exactly. Exactly. So, I'll tell you what I've been doing myself because I'm not somebody who typically has huge problems with anxiety, and my anxiety has been ramped up to the
Mm.
point where I was like, I need to do something. And so I took I did a detox from news and from Facebook. Um, Facebook um, is great in some ways, but it's also, we're not doing it mindfully. Facebook and our phones are designed to suck us in and to be, I mean, it's true. And to be, they're addictive and they're designed that way. And, and we're not choosing what we're looking at. Facebook is, and our computers are telling us, read this article, read this
This is the
article.
feed.
Yep,
Mm-hmm,
and this
mm-hmm,
is what you're going to consume, and it can be very upsetting, and I think sometimes people don't realize. And I would kind of take your emotional temperature before
mm-hmm,
going on Facebook or social media. How am I doing? Okay, I'm about a 3 out of 10 in terms
mm-hmm,
of my well-being, and then see how you feel after spending 15 minutes
mm-hmm,
perusing. you
mm-hmm,
know um, and I would venture to guess that your mood has not gotten better. I'm yeah, let me see.
mm-hmm,
Well-being, no, well-being would be higher, and then it would go down. My
mm-hmm,
theory would be it would go down, at least it does for me.
mm-hmm,
um, and and also, well, so my remedy to that, because oftentimes I'll go on Facebook and I'll read articles that other people have posted,
mm-hmm,
and my remedy to that is to be mindful in choosing instead of letting the computer choose it for you or your
mm-hmm,
phone. So I would encourage people to, you know I, I'd like to learn what's going on, then go to the governor's website and see
mm-hmm,
what what press releases they've released, or go to a trusted news site. Go to, I don't know, whatever your news site is, and read
mm-hmm,
about it,
mm-hmm,
and choose, like, I'm going to read 2 or 3 articles,
mm-hmm,
rather than having this barrage of images and headlines just coming at you.
mm-hmm. When does it get to a point where you actually need help?
um
Whether
I,
it's taking medication, or there's probably different layers, like, okay, talk to somebody and then take medication, 'cause sometimes it's just a necessity.
mhm, mhm. So I would say, when you get to the point where, well, you can always reach out for help,
Hmm.
like if you're uncomfortable. But when I would say you're in the spot where you really should get help is if, you're finding, like, I can't sleep. Um, I'm not able to do the things I used to do. I'm afraid to leave my house,
Hmm.
which is a real concern right now, but we also don't want that concern to get so big that we end up, with the, being fearful to leave our home
Hmm.
ever,
Hmm.
because that's something we have to do.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I
and
know.
panic attacks
And panic
too.
attack, yeah. So, I've talked to a couple of people, and one of the things that I've said is that I want to be cautious. I want to follow the guidelines, but I don't want to stop living.
Right.
I don't want this so I'm going to force myself to do some things that I'm pausing to do, but just make sure I'm smart about it, right? Just
Exactly.
make sure I'm wearing a mask, make sure I'm doing this, make sure I'm doing
Hmm.
that, make sure I'm washing my hands more than I normally would, make sure
Right.
I'm wiping down surfaces more than I normally would.
Hmm.
Just being extra careful about some of that. And when it comes to the integration of, um, when we talk about this from a mental health perspective, there have been times where I've met with a prospective client or even an existing client,
Hmm.
and I've noticed that their spending habits have changed
Mm.
significantly, or if I don't know them, that they're in significant amounts of debt or whatever the situation might be. And I can help them with some of the numbers that go behind that, but I can't, help them with that underlying issue that's chemical
Hmm.
in us.
So are you thinking like that somebody could be spending to help to help them
Well,
feel
yeah,
better?
right. Because if you think of, there's been so many studies that have been done about endorphins and spending money,
Right.
and people will go shopping and they feel, especially if they think they got a good deal, right?
Hmm.
So I'm a sales rep girl. I will walk into any store and I get on my tiptoes and I look for the big, 70, 50, 70% off sales racks, and I'll go pick through them for hours. And I'm thrilled if I find one thing that I really, really like for, deep discounted price. I mean,
Hmm.
that it's just elation. And I'll come home and I'll say, and I'm in finance, right? So
Hmm.
I still come home and say, but I saved $80. And the question is, how much did you spend? Not
Right.
not by anybody other than myself.
Right. Sure.
So what did I actually end up spending? The endorphins that you get from that can it's like it's another thing would be food, sugar.
Hmm.
It's the
Hmm.
endorphins that it puts into your body offset some of the negative chemical reaction, if I understand correctly, that anxiety can bring
Yeah.
us.
It,
But
it's
then it's a vicious cycle because,
exactly.
yeah.
It's a hit. So it's like when I used to smoke cigarettes. Like I'm feeling uncomfortable. I'm going to smoke cigarettes. If I'm feeling a little uncomfortable, I'm going to pick up my phone and start scrolling through it.
Hmm.
I'm going to go and do some, online shopping.
Hmm.
They can all be kind of serving the same thing. Like I
Hmm.
feel uncomfortable, I feel anxious, I feel depressed, I feel whatever, and I'm gonna do something to make it go away.
Hmm.
You know,
So
alcohol,
instead,
drugs.
right, instead of picking up the phone and instead of going shopping and instead of picking up that molasses sugar cookie that we all
Yes,
want.
right, right.
What are some tips? And I know before we got going, you actually held up a bottle of lavender.
Oh,
But
yeah,
what are some tips
yeah.
that we can do that we can plan out to say the next time I feel this way, I'm going to do this instead?
Yes. Okay. So, you reminded me about the lavender, but I have this on my desk. This is a coping tool. It is,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a little bag thingy, a little leather bag in my
Mm-hmm.
in my purse, and I have a few things in there. I've got some lavender in there. I just happen to have this too. It's a little worry stone.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Having some things with you all the time to help you cope when when anxiety hits or uncomfortable feelings hit can be very helpful. And the two examples I just gave you, they're very soothing.
Mm-hmm.
Other things that you can do, and we've talked about them before, but like finding a meditation app that you like and,
Mm-hmm.
and putting it on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a healthy use of your phone where you're
Mm-hmm.
like mindfully
If
choosing.
you're going to reach for your phone, reach for that part of it. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And another one. So I always talk about Insight Timer because that's the one that I use. But there's another one, and so with Insight Timer, there's like, I don't know, 30,000 free meditations. Find one that's like 5 minutes
Mm-hmm.
and do that when you need your hit. And then there's another one called Stop, Breathe, and Think. And there's a free version of that too. And it's kind of cool. It kind of takes your emotional temperature.
Okay.
It asks you, how do you feel physically? How do you feel emotionally? And then it asks you to identify your feelings, and then it gives you a short little meditation or breathing exercise to
Okay.
do.
Stop, breathe, and think. That's
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Yep.
So those are great. And they can be used for anything, like whether it's
Any kind of
spending,
uncomfortable,
whether
any kind
it's
of uncomfortable feeling.
kids, yeah, parents,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it might be.
Yep.
So what are some of the ways that we can overall think about balance? Because, like I said, I know that in reports that I've read, the number of people that are, suffering from anxiety has gone up significantly.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it's the fact that, as you know, I just got back from New York, and I'm sitting here recording this video right now and watching it snow.
Oh, you mean back from Florida?
Or
Right.
yeah, sorry, I just
Right.
got back
Uh-huh.
to New York from Florida, and I'm sitting here watching it snow, and that to me makes me very anxious because
Oh,
it's cold. I
right.
don't like cold, and when I say anxious, I don't want to use that word lightly, because there's people that actually suffer from severe anxiety, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to create this false sense of, well, Amy gets anxious because it snows outside. I say that only because I just left 80-degree temperatures,
Right.
and I'm sitting here watching it snow thinking, it's cold. And when I'm cold, my ears are, my shoulders are connected, and my body gets tight. And that's what makes me, and I don't go outside and as much,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have that natural sunlight. So that's chemical too. And thank goodness, and I'm not joking when I say thank goodness, um, throughout this entire crisis, I am so blessed to have had the opportunity to walk outside for 5 minutes and get some sunshine on my face
Mm-hmm.
when I felt overwhelmed by the number of clients that I've been trying to talk to, or trying to help clients through situations and decisions that they've had to make.
Right.
And now I don't. And I think, so I can rationalize why it makes me feel that way, but still doesn't make me not feel that way. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the balancing act that we have to play a little bit with that, right? To
Mm-hmm.
understand, and I know you've said this many times, it's okay. Like, realize that's how you feel, and what are you gonna do to take a moment to breathe through it?
Exactly. And the other thought that I had, is just being cautious what thoughts that you have around, like, oh, it's cold outside. Yep, it's cold outside, and soon it's
Huh.
going to be June, and it's
Soon
going to
it's gonna
be,
not be cold.
you know, because like because I did a similar thing in the winter, like, oh, it's cold outside, and then I could start, kind of awfulizing, like, I don't know, I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
get through this winter, it's always dark outside.
Mm-hmm.
Those kind of thoughts tend to, keep they're repetitive, they keep
Mm-hmm.
going, and they do not raise our mood, they lower it,
Good
you know
point, Janice. Good point. And that's true with money too. I think
mm,
if we're looking at a situation around our finances, and let's say that somebody is struggling with some financial decision that they have to make, and it could
hmm
be debt, or it could be student loans, it could be making a decision about paying for something, it could be a big line item that they unexpectedly had to come up with, it could be the loss of a job. I mean, all of those things could be what's going on. If we take a step back and do exactly what you just said, and say, okay, but if I lost my job, as an example, then what are the other opportunities that I have out there? This might be my opportunity to actually go into a career that I have always wanted to, but never dared. Or if I'm having debt issues, then okay, this is what they are, but I actually can change that. It's going to be hard, maybe, but when I come out on the other side, think how much less stress I'll have in my life. I mean, are those some of the things that, when you say change the thought, that am I
yeah, I mean,
correct?
that's kind of what I was talking about. So, but I think that that's a slightly different, but I would say that the strategy you're talking about, like, once you get yourself calmed down,
Mm-hmm.
and then you, like, wow, okay, I keep having anxiety around this issue. Let me
Mm-hmm.
be planful. around this? Like,
Mhm.
what can I logically do? What do I have control over? Maybe
Mhm.
is kind of what you're talking about. What
Mhm.
I'm talking about is just being careful of those negative thoughts, like,
Mhm.
oh my God, another day of gray.
Mm.
That's not going
Mhm.
to raise your mood.
Yeah,
It's going to
yeah.
lower it.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
me saying that, I could kind of feel it a little bit,
Yep.
you know? Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So tomorrow's supposed to be sunny. I'm gonna say
Mhm.
that.
This also makes me think about there's lots of studies that the practice of gratitude can
Mm.
be really, really helpful.
Mhm.
My husband and I we got into this habit after being inspired by some other people who have a lot of gratitude in their life. Um, like every evening, we we take a pause and tell each other a few things that we're grateful
Hmm.
for,
Okay.
because it kind of flips it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm concerned about this, I'm concerned about that, I'm worried about the state of the world.
Mhm.
um yep, but I'm really grateful that I have a warm house to live in.
Yeah. Little thing. I mean, little
I'm
big things actually, but yeah.
I'm grateful that I have my wonderful cats. I'm grateful
Mhm.
that I have a business, whatever it is in your life. And in no way am I trying to, like, I know there's people out there that are truly suffering,
Mhm.
really, really are. And but looking at gratitude can really be a beneficial thing to add to your well-being.
Right. And I think if there's one thing that you can take away from today's session is that even if there's one thing that you can come up with being grateful for and really focus on that, like, I think for me personally right now, I'm grateful for my health as you said, I could look out and I could say, oh my gosh, how gray is it? Or I could, oh, woe is me, it's cold, it's snowing. But in
Mhm.
reality, I'm very fortunate to have good health,
Yes.
especially after traveling. I'm very fortunate that my husband has very good health and that my family has had really good health, considering some of them are at high risk or exposed, and therefore at high risk. So
Hmm.
those are things that if I can really put that in perspective and say, just celebrate that for a moment,
Exactly.
then that does change the feel to the
It
way that
does.
I'm experiencing
Exactly.
the moment. Hmm.
And kind of like flipping it, and really soak in those positive feelings from it. It's not like a purely logical exercise to, like, really feel that gratitude.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I think these are all really great tips, and we will certainly have some of the items in the show notes that we've mentioned. And there's probably some really good articles on gratitude. And if you're not feeling that you can come up with something on gratitude, I read a book, and I want to say it's the 15-minute morning or something like that. I'll have
Mm,
to look up the name of it. It was a book about spending 15 minutes every morning journaling
mm,
about things that you're grateful for, and
mhm.
getting into that habit. And I think we all get so locked up into our own lives sometimes that we forget all the things that we really are very fortunate to have. And if we can take even just a few minutes every morning or every evening, to say thank you for something or be grateful for something,
Mhm,
then that's wonderful. And if you need, like anything, sometimes we do need guides though.
mhm.
And we'll try to post some gratitude links in the show notes that might get you started, because I think some people just need to get the juices flowing.
Mm,
They just
mhm.
they need to get out of that gray space, and they need a little bit of guidance to get those juices flowing, and then they can look around themselves and see how things are good too. There are good
Mhm.
things. And Janice, as always, you are still taking on new clients
I am.
and meeting with them virtually.
Yep, we're doing them online. I have a HIPAA compliant, secure video
Wonderful.
that I use, and it's been very successful. So yeah,
Great. So people don't even have to leave their homes.
they
They can
don't.
do it just
They
like you
don't.
and I are right now.
That's right. That's right.
Well, if you do have any questions for Janice and I, we'd love to hear your comments, and we'd love for you to share and like this on your pages so that people can know some options that they have available. And if you'd like us to cover a particular topic, please send it our way. We'd be happy to do so. We hope you are enjoying these vlogs as much as we are enjoying getting this information out to you. And we hope that you are all healthy and happy and looking forward to spring.